Well, hello, welcome, and thank you so much for being a part of the Aging Project community. This is our first ever live webinar. And I tell you what, I'm a little bit nervous. I'm very, very excited because this is something that I'm truly passionate about, and all of us here at the Aging Project are. We are a wonderful little community that's growing day by day, and all we really want to do is support you on your aging well journey. So I know the title of today's webinar was Bye Bye Belly Fat, but ultimately we are obviously completely body positive, and we are to help you on your journey to age well. That is a long, healthy life is what we are after. So today, you've dedicated this time to yourselves. I know a few of you are already multitasking, but I do ask you to put your phones away, block everything else out, take a big, deep breath, and join us for what's going to be a fabulous and very candid chat on the topic of belly fat, relating, of course, not to weight, but to wellness. So, it is interactive. We are live. So if anyone would like to test out my fabulous little system here and send me a message on how you are feeling today, or let's ask the question, are you a part of the Aging Project community? Someone give me a hell yes, so I know that this is working. Of course, I'm Shelley Craft. I'm your host for today, but I am joined by the one and only Lynsey Koch, who is our clinical nutritionist, sitting here with me. Lynsey, today it's all about belly fat, of course. Yep. We call it BF. Yep. We are going for a no BS approach to this. Yep. There is going to be some stats, there's going to be a lot of information. But of course, really it is about the Aging Project becoming your BFF when it comes to BF, because we are going to hold your hand all the way through this.
Absolutely. It is something that we need to look at it from a different perspective. As you said before, we are about acceptance of every body shape. But when we look at it through the lens of health, and we're definitely looking through that lens, we need to maybe have some hard conversations about visceral fat in particular. So I'll just introduce myself as well before. Some of you will obviously know us through the Aging Project and You Must Try It. A clinical nutritionist, the way we differ from a standard nutritionist is that we've been sort of more medically trained. So we have to recognize more significant medical conditions and then also work holistically to try and fix it. So that is the approach that we're taking with the seminar as well.
Absolutely. Okay, so what's the difference again? A clinical nutritionist, very different to a naturopath or a gynecologist or a GP. You're someone that we can go to when we're not really sick, but we want to be more well.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we're very similar to a naturopath. The only difference between a clinical nutritionist and a naturopath is that we kind of deviate in our studies. So naturopath will do a little bit more herbal medicine, plant-based medicine, whereas obviously we focus a little bit more heavily on nutrition and nutrient therapy. So very similar, just looking at medical conditions from that more holistic perspective.
Okay. Yeah. So we said that this is a no more diets movement because we just don't like the word. It's not the fact that we don't need to look after what we eat. It's the fact that the word diet leads to so many other things. You know, we've all been on the cabbage diet, the bean diet, the soup diet, yes, the restrictive diet. It's not about that. It's actually about feeding our body the right stuff to make our body work the right way.
We, as women and men, we torture ourselves being on diets through a whole lifetime. And I often say to that, if you are on a diet that you know you can't maintain for the rest of your life, why even start it? Don't do it. Don't do it. So we want to take the approach of what can we bring onto our plate rather than taking all these things off and being restrictive. So it's different approach.
And there's some good stuff there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, well, let's be honest, because that's what it is about. We've said lifetime health. It's not about weight. 100 years is at least what we should be gunning for now. Yes. There is no reason why we can't live to 100. I know that scares some people. I'm actually excited about the prospect of living to 100. I've got lots of things that I need to get done. Belly fat, we've all got it. Yeah. It's a fact, right? Nobody wants it. That is another fact. And we can't keep pretending that it's actually okay. Yeah. Can we? So, to keep us on track with this, and again, being in a very supportive environment, what is belly fat?
Yes. Well, the first thing I would like to say is not all fat is bad. We need it. Fat is actually part of our endocrine system. So we...
hold on 2 seconds. We can take the slides down for a sec. We're still just having a chat. This might confuse people about what we're up to. There we go. We're back. Okay. So, yeah, what is belly fat?
Yes. So it is the type of fat that is accumulated in the inter-abdominal area around the organs. And as I was saying before, not all fat is bad. We need it. It is a very important part as women for our hormone regulation. This is why often if you get too skinny, you will lose your menstrual cycle. So it is really, really an important thing, but it's the type of fat in particular that we're talking about. So that visceral intra-abdominal belly fat, it is associated with nearly every age-related disease that we have. And I think we've moved past the slide.
That's all right. We can bring it back up again. Let me see.
Yeah.
I've got my magic little clicker
Yeah,
here.
beautiful.
Let's go. If I click once.
Back
there
one,
we
I
go.
think.
Oh, no, we want to go back. Back
Yeah,
one.
so
There we go. Okay, so this is, okay, what are DALYs for a start?
Yes. So this is the basically daily attributed lifestyle factors, essentially. So you're saying if you have visceral fat, what is going to be your risk for these sort of diseases? If you have a look, cardiovascular health is the biggest issue. Then we have type 2 diabetes and metabolic conditions, dementia, asthma, arthritis, stroke, any kind of inflammatory disorder, visceral fat is associated with.
So yes,
It's
we do
huge.
not want anything
No.
on that list.
None.
And really interesting again to see coronary heart disease at the top because that's often more related to men as they get older. We don't often think about women as having heart disease.
Yeah.
But visceral fat is the main contributor to that, along with that big long list of all sorts of horrid things.
Yeah, don't want any of it.
Okay, so how do you know if you've got?
Yes. Now, this is a tricky one because we have a couple of measures that we can do that we're going to do shortly. But I would really like to bring across the point that you can be quite skinny and actually have a fairly high proportion of visceral fat. It's a difficult one to actually see because it is really tucked in around your internal organs. So we have one little measure that can give you a loose idea of how you're going, which we're going to show shortly. The most gold standard on it is by far a DEXA scan, which is great because if you get a DEXA scan, you can also ascertain your bone density at the same time as ascertaining measurements of intra-abdominal visceral fat. So just because you're bigger, medium, small size, it doesn't mean that a skinny person is going to have less. It really doesn't.
Okay, so how do we measure whether we've got it? I'm happy to be a guinea pig
Okay.
here. I have my magic tape measure, and I'll go to that slide. Where is that? No, we're going back here. I'll work this out by the end of the webinar, don't worry. Okay, so your waist circumference. So this doesn't matter race, doesn't matter age, doesn't matter height, has nothing to do with being big boned or little boned. It's just
It's
a general idea.
It's a general idea, and that's the thing we want to emphasize is this is just an at-home measure. It is not the be-all standard that you're going to have major problems. If you're really interested, I would suggest you go get a DEXA scan.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's give it a go. And this is where I come up with all those excuses that we all do, like, oh, I had bacon and eggs for breakfast. Oh, my dress is a little bit puffy. You know,
Yes.
all of those things.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the easiest way to measure is you find your bottom rib
Yes.
and you find the top of your hip, and it's literally right in the middle.
So
it
where
should-
you should dip in a little bit.
yeah, it's kind of where you dip in. Yeah, you want to be measuring that part.
Okay, I'm going to raise my belt up a little bit. Right.
Yes.
Okay. So around here, I'm going to get the bow out
And
of the
you
way.
exhale out while you're doing it.
Exhale out. Okay. What am I? How tight do you pull it?
No, just right to a
76? Okay.
76. Okay. So ideally, and again, there are different guidelines actually from country to country, but what we use in Australia is generally this one, which is women. If you're over 80 centimeters, it's just the first indication for you to maybe start investigating your health. It doesn't mean you got a big problem because ultimately, if you get the DEXA scan and you go, you know, you're actually doing pretty good with the amount of fat that is in those internal organs. It could be more subcutaneous fat. It's not as big of a risk.
Okay.
So that's the big thing to realize is don't feel bad if you're kind of borderline, but it's just a call to action.
A great way to get started. All right. So I don't know if anyone's sitting there. I know you're all breathing differently now too to go, oh, can I feel it in there? Is it down there? So 76, would you call that borderline?
No.
Because I think I'm kind of
You're doing
A-okay, but I know I can feel it. There's
Yeah.
chub there that probably isn't doing me any good.
Yeah, I'd say you're doing good. It's just one of those things that we can use this measure at home without having to go to a GP or a scanning place to give you an idea. It's a starter.
Okay. And then the DEXA scan.
DEXA
So
scan.
what does a DEXA scan actually do? What's the process when you're in there? Is it a machine?
It's like
Is
you
it
lay down on a table and it literally will be like a slow moving resonance scan that will just look internally. And this is what we use for bone density anyway, which honestly, any woman heading into their 40s probably should get a DEXA scan anyway, just to be ahead of the game when it comes to their bone density. So
Okay.
it's like you get to kill two birds with one stone. see what your lean muscle mass is, see what your bone density is, and see if there's any visceral fat in there that we need to work on.
Okay, so write that down. That's your first job.
Yeah.
If you do have a notepad, awesome. If you downloaded our fabulous Bye Bye Belly Fat workbook, we'll be going through that today as well. If you haven't done that yet, you can do that after the seminar is over. So that's a great one for taking notes, but also all the information that we're talking about is in there as well. So, all right. Well, what influences belly fat? Because it's not just diet or exercise. There are so many other factors that come into what holds weight in that particular area.
100%. And this sort of image is what we use in some of our health coaching clients, because I really want men and women to realize that it's not just diet and exercise. And if you think about it, the minute you put on a little bit of weight, that's the first two places that you go. Restrict my eating or clean it up, and start working your butt off at the gym. Now, that probably would work when you're in your 20s, but when you get into your 40s and there's been life and there's been all these variables, it gets more complex from a biochemical level. So if you look at that diagram there, diet and exercise, of course, is part of it. We have to eat good quality, nutrient-rich food, and we need to move. But if you go through, and this is what I'd love the audience to do at the same time, is as we're going through here, what I often will have people do is I'll ask them to put a little tick next to the variable that you think might be contributing to your weight imbalances. So the first thing we'll talk about is insulin sensitivity, because that is a big one with this whole entire topic. As we get a little bit older and when hormones change, and we'll deep dive into hormones in a little bit, our sensitivity from a body level to our insulin is a little bit different. And insulin's main purpose, it's made by the pancreas, is to come in when we eat food. Pancreas release insulin. Insulin has to come and grab glucose, and it needs to put it somewhere safe in the body, because it's not safe to have high levels of blood sugar. So it really will try and find an area to put it. Its favorite place to put it, believe it or not, is muscle, which is why we need it.
Okay, so that's why we always talk about increasing your muscle mass.
You need it. It's the preferred storage site for glucose is muscle.
So if you don't have enough muscle, where does it go then?
Yes, the liver runs through and it starts to produce more adipose tissue. And interabdominal visceral as well is one of them. So that's what I'm saying is we need to keep our insulin level as low as possible. So it's something we need to get tested. Absolutely.
Okay. So how do you test for your insulin levels?
Yes. If you go through a GP or a natural practitioner like myself, you should just be able to request to get fasting insulin.
So that's a blood test?
It's a blood test, yeah. Part of a routine panel, which I do think that we give information on what tests you should be giving at the end of this. So you ideally need to be sitting somewhere below 5. But the irony, I had a lady come through my clinic the other day that it was 10, and her doctor or GP said, you're fine, because the range can go from anywhere from 0 to 20.
Okay.
Yeah. So
right, so 10, you would think, I'm in the middle of the spectrum.
I'm okay.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
But you're not. So you're hoping for around a 5.
Yeah.
Is good, or is around a 5 great?
5 is great for probably our demographic that's sort of getting 40 plus, because there's changes that happen with hormones. So I'd say 5 would be pretty amazing. 8 is where we start to go borderline, where there is some insulin resistance happening. So it just goes to show you that woman got told she was fine. And if you get told you're fine, you probably won't do anything about it. Whereas if you kind of go, well, you're okay, but we could make some improvement, she could have taken more action.
Okay,
Yeah.
but GPs, if we look at the general practitioners, this is what they've learned, this is what they know is as okay.
Yeah.
So how do you question that? Or is it just about you having a little bit more knowledge in the area that you're interested in? I mean, really, we are also about taking control of our own health and our own health journey. So the information that we are giving you today, of course, is to be discussed with your practitioner and your expert along the way, but it's not a bad thing to know a little bit more for yourself. So
you have to be empowered. And I often say you get better care from anyone that you go see, any specialist in the field, if you have a good, solid background information. So I often say, bring in a research paper. You will impress your GP if you sit down with them and say, you know, hey, I've noticed this clinical research paper that's saying that the measurement of, 8 is kind of getting borderline insulin resistant. Where am I sitting? What can I do? I can guarantee you will get so much more care when you frame it that way. They'll be impressed too.
Okay. Oh, look, my magic computer here is
question.
working. I do have a question from Tracy. Where do I find this booklet? It is on the Aging Project website and you can download it there, and it's got everything you need to know about what we're talking about today. So thank you so much, Tracy, and you're showing me that this works. We've got a viewer from the UK. G'day.
hello.
Lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us. And if you do have any questions as we go about what Lynsey is talking about, please feel free. I think we've probably got like a 30-second delay, so I will get to you where we can. Well, we've got one there from a few minutes ago. All right, I'm onto this now. What does the measurement mean? Is there a standard? So the measurement means that perhaps you need to start thinking about the fact you're putting on a little bit around your belly, and the standard is 80 centimetres for women.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep, absolutely. And so that's your first little measure.
Okay.
It's just the starting point.
Right, so now we're talking about, where is my magic slide? I'll bring that back up again. Gut health, obviously a huge factor in wellness in general, but obviously plays a huge part in keeping that visceral fat at bay.
Yeah, the little microbes that we have inside our body actually have a huge role in metabolism. So much so that when it comes to people that are obviously really, really struggling with major metabolic conditions like obesity, that they're actually doing fecal transplants with very lean, healthy people. And it's doing huge wonders for supporting people with weight loss that are obviously very challenged by it. So it just goes to show you how powerful, I mean, it's obviously a very difficult concept to get your head around, is getting a fecal transplant.
That's obviously a very extreme case as well.
It
That's
is,
not for the
yes.
average punter.
No.
Right.
But it just illustrates the point that those microbes, the bacteria that we have in our microbiome, are very influential in our metabolism. So we have to have our gut health right. If you have any symptoms around your gut, you can start there too.
Well, it seems if you've got any symptoms around anything, gut health is the perfect place to start.
It's a foundation. Look, we take that approach here, even through You Must Try It in health coaching, is 9 out of 10 times, I'll probably get you to do gut work first. Because the reality is it's laying the foundation. Meaning we absorb all of our nutrients through a gut barrier. So if there's any issues with that absorption, you could be taking natural therapies, you could be eating all these beautiful foods, but if the gut isn't right, how much traction will you get? So you could never go wrong starting with gut health.
So I think everyone needs to put a tick next to that one, don't they?
Yeah,
Yes, I need to work on my gut health. My insulin sensitivity will obviously improve
100%.
if my gut is good. All right, the next one, stress, we're going to talk about in a lot more detail in a second. Thyroid health. Can you run me through this one?
Yes. Okay. So there's probably going to be a lot of, men and women that are going, that's me. I've got some thyroid issues. And look, there's an energetics to thyroid conditions that I always talk to clients about. Very rarely, in over 18 years of clinical experience, have I ever seen someone who has dysregulated thyroid that is zen and chilled out, or has had a highly stressed life and they're just doing okay with it. Stress is such a big factor because it is the next port of call when it comes to our stress response. So when we get anxious, upset, worried, we get this message from hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenals. They release cortisol. It goes straight up to the thyroid. So the thyroid is something that controls our metabolism and our energy balance. So if that becomes dysregulated, it can be challenging for your weight balance.
Okay, and what tests can you do to know if your thyroid's okay?
You need a full panel. This is something that I go on and on and on about. That often, and this is not your GP's fault, it absolutely is not. Medicare obviously has to watch numbers when it comes to finances. They will allow a GP to test for TSH, which is the brain end of a thyroid investigation. It's thyroid stimulating hormone. It's only ascertaining how the brain is doing. Like, how's the signal from the brain going? You can be missed. So you can have an underlying autoimmune condition where TSH is fine, but you have antibodies present. And I've seen this quite a few times. So it's a little bit difficult to get. You might have to pay for it yourself. And that is one thing to take note of, is if your GP says, look, I can't, because they're under pressure from Medicare, then you go, well, I'd like to pay for it. And as long as you're willing to pay for it, you can get any test that you want.
Okay. Would there be an outward sign or a symptom that your thyroid's not great?
Yes. Weight obviously is one.
Yep.
Yep. You can often lose hair around your eyebrows. You can lose hair in general.
Well, what about the generation that's been plucking, dyeing? Sorry, that's not, perhaps that's a little trickier one to work out.
We're not talking about trauma, eyebrow
Right.
trauma.
Yeah.
No, it's more on the relation.
That's a webinar for another day.
Yes.
Is
Yeah,
it?
yeah. It's probably, you're going to start to notice like temperature fluctuations, real poor tolerance to stress as well. So these are those little outward signs, particularly the hair loss and weight imbalances, dry skin. really flaky, dry skin.
Which again, a lot of these things can be perimenopausal signs, can't they?
Yep.
Plus the weight gain. And so those little excuses come, oh, well, menopause is coming, oh, I'm getting older, oh, I'm too busy. But they are real things to just keep on your list to be more aware of as time goes on. And I guess if those symptoms start piling up and the list starts becoming very long, then you've got to take some action.
Yeah. I always say a symptom is your body's communication pathway. It's its language, but sometimes we don't know how to translate it. And I think that's what this aging project and everything that we're trying to do is give you that knowledge base to be able to translate what your body is telling you so that you can own your own health.
Okay,
Yeah.
so your thyroid's giving you tips. Hormones, obviously, again, we'll go into that in a little bit more detail. Sleep, such a huge indicator of so many issues within the body.
Yes, yep. It's when we do all our repairing and fixing. So the biggest link when it comes to weight imbalances with sleep is that we've found, there's a lot of clinical research, that if you don't get that good 8-hour mark, it's mainly around your cravings. It is more difficult to resist the croissant or the chocolate cake because really it comes to two hunger hormones, leptin and ghrelin. So ghrelin, the easiest way I like to explain that is it's like a gremlin. Like if you were hungry, your ghrelin is being secreted. And then when you eat, about 20 minutes after you eat, if you've eaten slowly, leptin will come in and go, I'm full, I'm good. But that gets dysregulated if you don't have enough sleep. And so it gets difficult to make good decisions. Everyone's had a big late night and the next morning.
You know,
You
you
just
know you're
go
not
for
making good decisions.
Yeah, no, your brain's not working. So it's very much, sleep is huge.
Great, we'll mark that one down because I know again that all of us are going to have some issues in that department. Question here from Joe, thank you Joe. Is a SOZO or an SOZO scan the same as a DEXA scan?
I actually haven't heard that term. That might be an Australian one. We'll have to look it up. Yeah.
SOZO.
Yeah, I actually haven't heard that terminology, but it could be.
We will get back
look
to
it
you
up
on that one, Joe.
and see
Thank
if it
you
is
very,
the
very
same
much.
technology as a DEXA scan. Yeah.
And a question here from Nolene. Thank you, Nolene. Where do we start with gut health? Well, that is unpacking a whole
That's a whole
extra
webinar.
topic. That is a whole webinar, and we will go into that, of course. We've got lots of information on
Yes.
gut health through the Aging Project podcasts. I know we have done one together on gut health. Of course, we've got some wonderful products there at You Must Try It for gut health too. So we can deep dive into that. And Lynsey, being the beautiful woman she is available for health coaching at any time through You Must Try It. So if you would like to book an appointment with Lynsey, she can deep dive into all of these topics with you along the way. But gut health, obviously, a massive one, no matter whether you are Lynsey, the healthiest woman I know, or otherwise, gut health is something to always keep your eye on.
Yes.
How can medications, which is also on our list here of things that may be contributing to our holding weight in that area, what sort of medications are affecting our weight gain?
There's a huge amount. One of them is obviously very common with women is birth control pills. It can have a huge effect because that's that hormonal manipulation. Another one that people don't recognize too is a lot of the proton pump inhibitors, which is those medications we use for reflux. And of course, any woman that's had inflammatory conditions has maybe at some point in their life been put on prednisone. What's the biggest side effect of that? Steroidal cortisol derivative, weight gain. It just almost instantly. So there are medications. So that's what we're saying is, this is why we don't want you to beat yourself up.
It's not just
It's complicated.
exercise and diet.
No, stop being mean to yourself because it might be this medication that you're on that you haven't necessarily investigated some of the potential side effects. So we need to look into those things as well.
So this is kind of our get off the hook list. Although it's not a great list, but it's like, oh, it's not all me, but it's all me. Yes, I've still got to take charge.
Yeah, it's more probably just not knowing what to do is the biggest thing. That's the only thing that you were probably at fault of, is just not knowing where to start and what to do, and that's why we're here.
Okay, we're talking about medications. I've got a question here from Lynn. Thanks for joining in, Lynn. It's lovely to have you with us. Does HRT affect belly fat?
It can if they get it wrong. And that is one thing. HRT nowadays is very different than it used to be. There's still a lot of fear around it. We don't have to be quite as fearful because we use bioidentical hormones. But hormones are very fluctuating, and they are really influenced by our environment and stress in particular. So if you were going on HRT, I have talked to a lot of clients that I go, well, I'm on HRT, and I go, well, how long have you had all of your measurements and checks on that? And they're like, I think it was about 1.5 years ago. And I go, well, hang on a minute. You need to have a pretty regular checkup with your specialist,
Okay.
just to make sure the levels are right. So there is the potential that it could kind of not be what you need, or you need increased dose or less dose based upon where you're at.
Okay, so you can't just jump on it and off you go.
Well,
It's one of those constantly changing,
Yeah.
evolving things.
But this is where, obviously, we can't do any HRT as clinical nutritionists. That is definitely a specialist in the medical field. So you need to have a good one, and you need to catch up with them regularly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on to the really serious ones that are going to affect everyone, and everyone will have ticked these on the list. Metabolism. Now, you told me the other day that my metabolism is the same, or should be the same, from when I was 20 to when I'm 60.
Yeah.
Now, we all use metabolism as an excuse as to why our bodies have slowed down and changed.
Yes.
But you're saying no matter whether it's obviously childbirth and pregnancy is different, but ultimately, my metabolism should be moving as fast now as it did when I was 20.
Yeah, no, this will probably blow people's minds and kind of go, "Oh, what? Wait a minute."
No.
It's actually relatively,
Can't be true.
you know, it's actually relatively new clinical research in this field, because we always assumed that as we age, it slows down. That's the old adage that we've heard many, many times. What they found is there are different phases of metabolism. Obviously, when we're babies, to then when we're kind of up into our teenage years. But the biggest phase that most of us are in goes from 20 to 60, which means that our innate metabolism doesn't slow within that age bracket. When we get to 60 and above, they've shown measurable differences starting to drop. People kind of go, well, wait a minute, but I can tell it's slowing. This is a bit of a, again, mind-blown moment. As we start accumulating fat, and in particular visceral fat, having higher proportions of it, it's the fat that actually slows down metabolism. So it's not the metabolism that puts on the weight. It's probably maybe not taking care of yourself, not sleeping, having high stress, just things that snuck in there that you didn't realize. But as we get a higher proportion of fat, then that's actually what starts to regulate our metabolism.
Okay.
Because it is transient. But as far as like the permanent slowing, not between the age of 20 to 60. I know. And this is new research, so it's kind of like,
That is. I'm going to regress for a second.
Yeah.
We've had To Be Beautiful by Tracy Bradley. Thanks for joining us. A SOZO scan is not the same. It's more for fluids,
There you
like
go.
the lymphatic
Yes.
system.
Yeah.
Also great test to get done, I would
Beautiful.
assume.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, lymphatic, very important part of your immune system regulation. So amazing.
There you
So
go.
good.
All right. And yes, you will be able to listen to this again. It is going to be up on our website, I think, for the next 48 hours. It's free. You can click on and go for your life. And after that, it will be available along with the booklet, which will be there the whole time. I love this being able to communicate.
It's good, isn't it?
Thank you. Is everyone happy with the pace that we are moving at? Or are we going a little bit fast? Do you want us to speed up a little bit? Please let me know, whatever you like. I am here for you. At the moment, we are talking about metabolism. So when they say 20 to 60, obviously in that bracket there somewhere came perimenopause and menopause. So it doesn't really alter in that period. The metabolism can just keep on ticking.
If we do the right thing during this perimenopause and menopause is a huge transition. And we've had so many amazing guests on the podcast about this. We have to just recognize it's a change of season. So yes, biochemistry changes. But if we match those changes, then we really shouldn't have a problem. Everyone's seen the videos of these incredibly amazing fit 50 to 60 to 70. We put up videos all this time of these 70-year-olds that are just amazing. So it's not something that's set in stone. But what you do need to realize, if you look at this little graph, the viewers should be able to see that. You'll see that when we get into menopause, progesterone drops first. Now that's kind of when we lose our marbles from an emotional standpoint, because progesterone keeps
Who, Lynsey? Who does?
It keeps us calm and grounded. And so those are those first signs of perimenopause, is when you're like, why am I crying? And then yelling within 5 minutes.
It's not just a Disney movie.
No.
Triggers me every time.
No. So these sex hormones are really powerful. But then when we start to get into menopause, where estrogen starts to drop, so that's the little pinky purple line on that top graph, there are changes, and it affects the way our pancreas regulates insulin. So if we go back to understanding insulin's role is to take blood glucose and stick it somewhere. When we go into drops of estrogen in particular, it does affect the pancreas, which means that our insulin sensitivity won't be quite as efficient, which means that from a dietary perspective, we have to adjust our diet. But rather than going on a diet, it's going, okay, what does my body need when I get into perimenopause and menopause? I need more protein. So 50% more protein past the age of sort of 38 to 40. which is a good amount. Doesn't mean all animal-based, plant-based, everything. We need to essentially also reduce down the amount of refined carbohydrates, because when we look at different food groups, carbohydrates always get a bad rap. We are not about bashing carbohydrates, but the reality is once we reach that phase, our body just doesn't need as much of it. But we do need protein, we do need really good fats, and we need lots of colorful veggies for antioxidants and protection. So there are some changes that happen during this time, but you can work with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So getting our metabolism back on track.
Just helping the body, yeah.
Cortisol. All right, this is a whole slide all of its own. Here we go. Stress and cortisol. And again, I think this is something that we can all tick as contributing to that visceral fat, that belly fat in all of us. What are the contributing factors to this?
Well, first, I'd always like to say how we measure stress is really interesting in a modern world. This is why on some of our health forums for health coaching, we have 2 questions. How stressed are you? Rate it from 1 to 10. And then right underneath that, we've put in there, how busy are you? Rate 1 to 10. Okay. It's my sneaky way of actually getting the real honest answer, because stress is so common, it's so part of our daily life, that if you ask most women, how stressed are you? They'll probably go, oh, probably sitting at sort of 6 or 7, maybe. And then I go, how busy are you? Oh, 10. Oh my God. And I'm like,
okay,
got the right answer there. And I go, it's probably more of an average of 8. So it's how we measure our stressors too. It's just because it's such a constant. So we have to recognize cortisol is that very powerful stress hormone that sends signals out throughout the body. And it's very primal. It's a survival mechanism. So what happens when cortisol is in the bloodstream, a lot of our other biochemistry will just get pushed to the wayside, including hormone metabolism. And this is the link between stress and dysregulated hormones. But stress is pretty much a little signaling molecule to get those little adipose cells to start pulling in fat. The reason why is and this is the thing, I really want women to not hate their body, but flip it around and start to go, you know what, my body doesn't hate me. I actually understand that it's actually trying to keep me alive, because what we're trying to do is if you have stress going on all the time and cortisol in your blood, your body's going, I don't know what the hell is going on out there, but I need to hold on to energy. Like I really need it because I'm going to need it at any second of the day. And so that goes to that element that we had a video that we put up about protection. Mm-hmm. So from an energetic perspective, we really believe that weight, particularly intra-abdominal, is about protection. It could be trauma and emotions. It could be just the way that we eat because we are stressed. And it could be just the very fact that our environment around us is high stress.
Okay, so we have to look at our body is forever feeding us information. We just need to know how to read it. So it's almost like our body is smarter than our brain sometimes. It's sending us all these messages. You've just got to read them right. And as you say, you're putting on a little bit of weight. Don't get angry about it.
No.
Think about what your body actually needs. And it makes me want to cry. My body's talking to me.
Yeah. Well, it's also trying to love you and keep you alive. That is at the heart of some of these problems. And I really want women to recognize that it's really trying to protect you. Okay. And so when you look at it that way, it takes this whole heaviness off of the fact of, I've got a little bit extra on me. Because then you can look at it a bit lovingly and going, yep, that was probably that year when I had, this going on and that going on. But you can then recognize that and go, all right, it's time to give my body, and I talk about this a lot, if you just give your body the message in every way, with sleeping and eating and exercising, that it's safe, you watch what happens. Because I had a lady who was a PT, like personal trainer, super fit, working in one of the gyms that I was going to. And she started to put on this, because she hopped on, they had a little scanning device there, and she kept hopping on it, and I go, stop hopping on it, and stop measuring and weighing yourself and all that sort of stuff. And she was getting really stressed because the visceral fat was starting to increase. And she was going through a breakup with her husband, and he was pretty emotionally, abusive. And she was eating actually too little food. It was like, the chicken and the steamed broccoli every
because
day.
She thought that was going to control the situation.
Yeah, and it absolutely did not. And so then she exercised more and ate less. And I said, you've got to stop. And so you know what I wrote on her little prescription? I want you to find joy and happiness. And she went away. And I think I saw her probably about 6 months later. She found a new partner. And she goes, oh, Lynsey, she goes, it fell off. I didn't change anything different. I still trained. I still ate this, and finding happiness and not having that cortisol running through her blood all the time, because the body could let go, because it was safe.
So this is where we have to think of everything in this holistic
Yeah.
wellness point of view, that everything we do is affecting
Yeah.
not just our weight, but our mind, our control. So I'm a big one for talking to myself. And of course, in our 5-step morning challenge, we talk about gratitude.
Yeah.
So can you manifest this as far as a weight control exercise? If you talk to yourself about, I'm not feeling stressed, I'm taking a deep breath, I love myself, I love my life, is all of this internal chat going to help?
Absolutely. We have neuroplasticity, which means our brain and the way we think is not set in stone. So we can change it at any moment. And they've literally shown clinically meditation and all these practices are a way that you can rewire everything. And if you rewire your brain, your body's going to change to it. So I would start as honestly, have an appreciation for your body first. Self-love, I know it's a bit of a buzzword, but it is important. It really is. And then you will find it just sets the momentum in a different direction.
Mm-hmm. So we know that the stress isn't really going to go away. There's obviously that deep-seated lifelong stress that a lot of people are hanging on to and holding on to. And then there's that sort of daily stress that happens with just being busy. And I found a way of talking to myself. I don't say I'm busy anymore. I say I'm doing lots of wonderful things. Because I've brought this on myself because I like being busy. I like discovering new things. But rather than, oh, I'm so busy.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm doing lots of wonderful things.
Awesome.
And that just to me changes the mindset of this massive list I have to do, whether it be for the Aging Project or my kids, family, other work that I do. But that also brings in the joy too, because
100%.
often we've asked for this.
Yeah.
We've put those things on our own list. But then that deep-seated stress that you say could be, it could be generational. It could be trauma that you've held on to for a long time. You have to start working through all of that as well.
100%. You know, I had a client, and in saying that, I've had some clients that come through. They amaze me because when I talk about one of the big stressors can sometimes be work and the fact that you're working so much that there's no time for self-care. And I've had 3 people in the last couple of years completely quit their job. And I'm like, I'm not asking them to do that, but they have put, because their health is in a crisis point, at the top of their priority, and they're going, I'm either going to stop it, or one lady I saw the other day, she's like, you know what, I can drop down to 3 days a week. And I'm like, good on you. Because if the stress is there and you know it's killing you slowly, you can do something about it. Yeah. Or just find those micro moments is another thing too, but we can talk about that.
We are talking about that. We're going to move into these find your factors and the testing. So here we have the list of the things that are affecting us, and we now know, Lynsey's talked through these about what it is that is affecting us, and we've ticked our little boxes. So if it's your diet, obviously, things that we have to start doing, looking at what you're eating first. And I guess it's not just stopping exactly what you're up to, just take a few days to work out where the troubles are creeping in and what time of day those troubles are creeping in.
Yeah, absolutely, which we can talk about. And, you know, an easy way, you don't have to necessarily write it down with a food day, like 3-day diary, but it's just a good way to kind of be conscious and see what you're doing.
Okay, exercise. We can all do more, can't we? We really can.
Well,
all do more exercise.
If you go back to how important that lean muscle mass is as a storage site for glucose so that we don't have the soft, squishy bits, it's huge. And when it comes to the type of exercise, we need varied. You don't have to go and bust yourself at the gym. We do find when it comes to the zone for more burning of visceral fat, it's between 50 to 72% of your VO2 max, which is like your highest output. You need a little bit of that. We need to do long walks. We need to do Pilates, a little bit of weight-bearing exercise and maintain muscle. Variety.
Yeah, you need to bash your bones.
Yep.
Like we heard. Yeah, get rid of it. Okay, we are on a mission, and I am on a mission. And I don't know if you've seen our new community on the Aging Project website, but we have little chat rooms for every different topic in there. And I have put mine up in the move category, that I need you all to hold me accountable to do more exercise. So I'm going to be there in that chat room, driving you all crazy with my little tips, tricks, and comments. And I would love you to join me in there. But we've got a different category for every conversation. So that's on the Aging Project website. Back to those finding your factors. Yes. Okay, so exercise, I know I need to look at. Diet, I know I need to look at. Sleep, I love my sleep and I will not compromise on that. So I know I'm okay with the sleep.
Yeah.
Thyroid, we've got the tests there,
All
and
of
I know
them.
a few of you have been asking here on my magic machine about what tests to do. Don't be afraid to ask your GP.
Or pay
They're
for
not
it.
going to be offended.
No.
They're not going to think that you're coming in there,
No.
Google doctoring and telling them what to do. You just want to know where you're at.
You just you're a team. You are basically a team with your GP, and you're supposed to work on your health. If you have any struggle, then you can actually get all of this tested through You Must Try It, through our health coaching diagnostic testing.
Thank you. Lynsey will be there online for you. Make an appointment. Awesome. The insulin sensitivity, there are the tests that you need to get done there as well for your fasting insulin, not just your fasting glucose.
Yes. Often it's just glucose. You have to get insulin.
Okay.
It's huge.
Hormone tests, we've got a whole lovely list there. And of course, they are also in our Bye Bye Belly Fat workbook that you can download. Stress, something we all have to be honest about. And it's okay, because we are with you on this, and we are all feeling that daily stress, and we've probably all got some underlying stress there as well.
I'll just actually touch on that real quick. Probably a lot of women will be like, what is a cortisol awakening response test? A CAR test is what we use in functional medicine to be able to ascertain the rhythm and the pattern of your cortisol, because cortisol gets bad rap. It's what wakes us up too. So if you don't have enough cortisol, you're that one that's like shoving yourself out of bed because you're exhausted. So a cortisol awakening response test is either part of a Dutch hormone test, which we have on the website, or you can do just that on its own. If you really want to get an idea of what your stress response is throughout a day, that's the test for it.
Great. You put me through that one, didn't you?
I
I did that
did.
in my Dutch test.
Yep, I did.
Didn't I? And I did pretty well on cortisol.
You did,
Because
yeah.
I said I love my sleep. And I'm not going to say that it is the miracle cure, but
It's
gosh,
huge.
it is huge.
Yeah.
And it's a great excuse just to say, everyone, I'm off. Right. Gut health. And again, this affects our wellness all round. So if you're not just doing it for the belly fat, do it for every other aspect of your wellness in there.
Yeah.
And of course, your medications to check what you're on. And hopefully, when all these other things start to come good, perhaps the medications won't be as
As
necessary.
needed. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so there are our factors. Now, Lynsey, what do we do about it? Because you can know all these things, and I know innately we do. We all know so many of these things that aren't quite right. The job is doing something about it.
Yeah.
And here at the Aging Project, we are all about baby steps. You've got to find things that are going to fit into your day and are going to be easily added rather than taken away from your daily program. Where do we start with our baby steps? We have a 7 baby step formula.
Yes. I love it.
Okay, it's baby steps all the way. So the first one of this is being water first, then fat.
Yes.
So we've done our morning 5 steps. The first one on that is, of course, gratitude. So before you even open your eyes, a beautiful word of gratitude, whether it be for your beautiful body that is keeping you here on this planet, or whether it's for the day that you're going to have, whether it's the fact you've woken up in the first place. I'm always very grateful to have woken up. Gratitude is our first one, but the first step of these is first water, then fat.
Yes.
Why is that?
Okay. You cannot underestimate the influence of dehydration when it comes to stumping your weight balance issues. It's huge, because you can imagine we need fluidity. We need that fluid to be able to have all of our biochemistry work. So that's what we're saying is, if you can we wake up, we're dehydrated because we haven't had any water for hopefully 8 hours. So you need to get up and you need to have a good glass of water. Our little hack of putting a pinch of quality salt, like a Celtic salt or a Murray River salt, you don't need it to taste like the ocean. It's just a little tiny bit. What that does is it allows better cellular hydration, because we have these little sodium potassium pumps. So we need to get the water into the cells. Hydration is not just about drinking it and it going out. It's getting into the cells. So you have to be hydrated first. And then we use that other little tip that we have, which is MCT oil, which is a type of fat that is a little bit different than a lot of the other fats as far as the way our body absorbs it. It kind of bypasses some normal fat biochemistry, and it gets absorbed to turn into energy really quickly in the form of ATP. And it also satiates and helps with cravings. So it's a great little hack to go, I'm good. I'm starting off with energy, and I'm also not craving Cocoa Pops or whatever.
Whatever it is. So back to the water, a little pinch of salt.
Yeah.
Now, we've often heard lemon juice in your water is good. Can you put lemon and salt? Do you add cayenne pepper? I've seen there's lots of different, or are you just talking plain old tap water and a little bit of salt?
I would say start there first. There's other things you can do, absolutely, but I would say cayenne pepper is a bit every day in the morning. So I'd say a pinch of salt, you probably won't even notice it. It's a huge, absolutely huge.
And it is a game changer.
I had a lady come through the health coaching program that one of her main issues, she's not sleeping. And she said, I'm always thirsty. And I go, okay, well, alarm bells went off and I go, we need to test for diabetes because obviously that's a symptom of diabetes. So we went and did some pathology. No, all clear from diabetes and insulin sensitivity. And I said, I know it sounds a little bit weird. I said, but I want you to have a pinch of salt in each 1 liter bottle. And I want you to stop drinking around 5, have no more than 2 to 3 liters a day. And when we had another follow-up 3 weeks later, she went, I can't.
I'm cured.
I can't. She's like, I'm sleeping. I'm not getting up 10 times a night to go pee because the water's just going through instead of being cellularly absorbed. And she's like, I can't believe a pinch of salt is what I needed to fix my health problems.
Goodness.
And that was a lady that came through. So it's like, don't underestimate that it's small changes make a big difference.
Okay, we can do that.
Absolutely.
Pinch of salt in our water before we get up. Then the fat, MCT oil, it's obviously clear. It doesn't mix well with water. Can you take it just as a teaspoon, or I put it in my coffee, or my adaptogenic hot chocolate? You just mix it in.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a little bit of word of warning here. Don't go too heavy on MCT oil the first time you've had it, because there's a lot of stories out there of people going a little heavy-handed.
Stay at home.
Yeah, yeah.
Stay close.
Have a toilet nearby.
You know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you go too hard, too fast, and have like 2 tablespoons of MCT oil because you're so motivated, you're like, this is going to give me energy and help my cravings.
Great tip.
Your body's not quite used to it in the beginning, so we often advocate for a teaspoon up to a tablespoon max.
Okay.
Don't need more.
Okay, and if you're not giving up caffeine, this is where the bulletproof coffees, I'm sure you've, again, heard us talk about them, but they're in a lot of coffee shops now, is basically your espresso shot with some MCT oil. You can chuck your collagen in there as well, a little bit of ghee or unsalted butter. You froth it up and it's like a cappuccino, but that way you're getting all your goods and you're still having your coffee if you need it. But the MCT oil, again, slows down that caffeine release in your body, doesn't it?
Does, yeah.
So it's just good all around.
It is.
Okay, so that is step number 1. Step number 2 is protein, fibre and fat for breakfast.
Yes.
This is going to hit a lot of people because some of us decide that we don't have time for breakfast in the morning and I'm just skipping it, or we're washing down something that we thought was great, being your yogurts, granolas, fruits, oats, whatever it may be. You're saying no.
Yes, I know. This is a hard one. This is really challenging for a lot of people, but I often say, we're trying to start a breakfast revolution here because your adrenals are most receptive in the morning. It's when we open our eyes, it's kind of going, how do I read the room? What's the day going to be like? If we don't have the right type of nutrients, which are obviously found in good fats and proteins, sometimes those adrenals can be switched on in a stress response. So that's one factor for having that. Your energy, you just watch it. I know it's, again, hard to get your head around. Your breakfast should look a little more like dinner. And I know that's very, often though I say that though, if you've ever been traveling overseas, and Shelley, you've been everywhere, are they eating toast and cereal? What are they eating for breakfast?
Well,
Dals and curries and nasi goreng and stir fries and broths and ramens. You go to other second world countries and they've still got that cultural habit of eating a breakfast that is so much better than sort of a Western diet. And so we tend to go very carbohydrate loaded, which will give you this quick glucose hit. Insulin comes in, tries to get rid of it. Your energy will crash. You'll go to the next coffee. It's this roller
take your time. So we're talking eggs, mushrooms, greens, kales, broccolis, steak. Have a steak for brekkie.
Salmon, lentil patties.
Right.
There is no rules. And this is like, we have to expand our mindset as far as, because people go, I don't know what to eat then. And I go, anything.
Anything. Or even a smoothie with a protein powder.
Yeah, just put
in it.
You got to load it up with good fats.
Changing all those things. All right, flip your breakfasts. Quality sweets before noon is step 3. I know this is going to excite everybody. Quality sweets before noon. We're not saying cut out the yummy stuff. We're just saying have it earlier in the day.
You cannot go through your whole life not having sweet things. And you know what? Frankly, I don't want you to, because food is also a joy in life.
It's going to add stress, right? If I stop myself from having
restriction.
sweets, I'm going to be stressed.
Yeah, and you're going to want it even more and then probably go nuts on it. So it's like this pendulum swing. If you restrict over here, you're probably going to end up over there and
So
going back and forth.
What is a quality sweet in your eyes?
Okay, there's a big difference between a commercial, and I don't know if I should say any brand names. Am I allowed to say brand
We
names?
know the ones that we see at the service.
Commercial chocolate bars. There's a big difference between that and a 70% dark chocolate. The commercial chocolate bar put it frankly, is basically an inflammatory shitstorm for the body.
Thank you, Liz.
And 70% dark chocolate has polyphenols, antioxidants, magnesium. So you can have your cake and eat it too, meaning you can choose sweet things that actually give you nutrition at the same time. So we're talking a lot of the unrefined, some of the raw food slices, you got to watch with how much dates and stuff that they put in there. But there's a lot of beautiful things out there.
We just have a little sneaky block of dark chocolate in the top of the fridge
Oh.
and do it before noon.
My routine every single day, except for probably today because I'll be down here, is green tea and my little piece of around 10 o'clock. I was like, do not get in my way. I was like, that is my routine to come, because if you give yourself a little bit of sweetness, when your insulin is most receptive to it, so this is from the scientific perspective, which, you know me, I love the science, our insulin is most efficient in the morning and least efficient in the evening. But how do we eat? We eat kind of a quick carbohydrate breakfast that burns off quickly, okay lunch, good dinner as far as the nutrients, but it's generally the biggest meal. And then often we'll either have a glass of wine or dessert. So we're eating the bulk of our nutrition at the time that our insulin is least sensitive.
And then we wonder why we can't sleep because you got this full tummy.
And then,
go to bed.
Yeah. Did you ever heard of the sumo diet?
No.
How they actually get sumo, because sumo wrestlers are obviously very big. So the way that they get them to put on weight is by eating huge meals and then they make them sleep.
All the things that we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you want to look like a sumo wrestler, that's a great plan. But if otherwise, you need to, that's where one of these other points is you need to have a light dinner.
Okay, so let's move down to that, flipping your meals.
Yes.
So I've heard breakfast like a king,
Yep.
lunch like a queen, dinner like a pauper.
Yeah.
Big meal up front.
Yep.
Smaller, still healthy at lunchtime, and then just flip your meals. So something light at
Yeah.
dinner before you need to rest.
Yeah. And so easy way to do this is big plate for your first meal, medium plate for the middle one, and a small dinner side plate.
Okay,
Really
great. This one, I love this one, finding your micro moments. So what do you mean by this, Lynsey? This is step number 5, finding the micro moments.
Yeah. Well, going back to our world being a little busy and a little bit stressed, sometimes it is difficult to find moments to switch off. But I say that there are 5, meaning 5 ones that each and every single one of us can find. One of them is how you wake up in the morning, and we're big advocates of morning rituals. The other one is how you go to sleep at night. So at both ends, we need to have those have a ritual and be a bit sacred. Slow start, slow wind down. The other 3 moments is actually when we eat. So none of us, I often ask clients, I'm like, do you have a lunch break? Yes. Do you take it? No. I eat and type and go through and I go, no more of that. Meaning we need to embrace the ceremony of eating. Culturally, it used to be that way. And we need to put things down. 5 deep belly breaths, and then eat. So you have morning, every meal, and when you go to bed. Those are 5 micro moments. We can all find them.
And that's finding gratitude, appreciation, taking a deep breath,
Yeah.
resetting, which is all good anyway. Okay, breaking up with alcohol. All right, here we go. Let's hear it. It's just not good for you. I don't care whether you're a red wine drinker, whether you've, a part of a culture that drinks alcohol. It's just not good for you.
Yeah, it's hard. It's a big part of many cultures, really. And look, if you break down what alcohol is technically not a carbohydrate. So it doesn't spike your insulin the way that we do. It's not directly affecting it, but it's the downstream effects that you have. So when we drink alcohol, the hepatocytes in our liver perceive that as poison. It is a toxin, even though people don't want to hear that. And so the problems that we have is that over time, drinking alcohol, it will damage those hepatocytes, and the liver has to get rid of toxins. Now, just to give you an insight, fat is the substance that we will store stuff that the body can't handle at that moment. So we will put toxins there, we will put excess hormones there. So if you have a lot of alcohol over time, your liver is going to eventually be burdened. It's going to start putting it over there.
Okay, so we don't want to store any bad anywhere.
No, have a mocktail. We love our mocktails.
Oh, and I've got a little one here. This is the Imbibe Beauty Renewal. It is my excuse for a cocktail these days, and I love it. I probably drink more of this than I would cocktails in a night. Anyway, it goes down very easy. That is also on You Must Try It. You can go there. So the last one being movement. Movement matters. We can't avoid exercise. In fact, we're going to embrace exercise, and that means all types of movement.
Yes, yeah. And I think like in the program that we have, the 14-day Own Your Own Health Challenge, we've partnered up with Zali, which is an amazing program of everything: nutrition, movement, exercise, stretching. So we'll give you I think it's 30 days, isn't it?
Yes.
30-day free.
Yes. So Zali's there. Jump on the theagingproject.com. You will see a link there to Zali. This is run by Naz DeBono. She is my personal trainer and great friend, and she is extraordinary for training women that have had injuries, that have had accidents, that have had no problems but are getting back into exercise, people who've never exercised before. There's something in Zali for everyone. So we have teamed with Zali, and you can jump on there. That's XALI. So we've got you covered. So there we go. Step 1, water then fat. 2, protein for breakfast, fibre and fats for breakfast. Sweets before noon. Flip your meals. Breakfast like a king.
Yes.
Find those micro moments in the day. Chill out, relax, take a breath, let go of some of the stress, break up with alcohol, and of course, get moving. These are our 7 steps for getting rid of that unwanted belly fat and getting on the way to living a healthy, happy, vibrant life.
And the best thing, you need to lose weight slowly, because the biggest thing is a lot of these really restricted diets, you will lose weight, but you know what you're losing a lot of? Lean muscle mass. So if you go slower at the same time as maintaining exercise, it's the best way. Slow and steady does win the race here.
Lynsey, you're awesome. And you are too, for tuning in. We are here for you. This is all about community. As I said, we've heard the hard line now, and there was no BS in there. You're saying it's got to go, and there's ways that we can do that, and we can do that together. And that, of course, is taking those 7 steps really seriously. They are things that you can change, and don't try and do it all tomorrow, but it doesn't take long to actually transform your whole program. We at the Aging Project also have the 14-day challenge, and this is where we can also hold your hand along the way. So we incorporate this, of course, but we then do a lot of other wonderful things that are going to help you on that step-by-step change. So that is the 14-day challenge. Again, it's a challenge a day. And when I say challenge, it's not really a challenge. They're learnings every day, and you can take it at your pace. So you can take a week for the first one. You can take a week for the second one. If you're an A-type personality, and I know we have a lot of you listening, you can do the whole lot in one day, if you like. You can listen to all the videos there, but there is a fabulous community. We will be commenting, and Lynsey is on board. Amanda is there writing back every day. I jump on board and listen to what you have to say, because we're all in this together. I can say that over and over and over again. It's a really wonderful program, I believe, that we've put together. It's a formula, it's a blueprint, and it takes it nice and slow and easy. Of course, we also have Lynsey doing her health coaching. So if you would like to jump on board, you must try it. You can book health coaching there as well. I've got a lot of questions here about where we can get MCT oil. Of course, we have that at You Must Try It. The adaptogenic hot chocolate that I mentioned a little bit earlier, that's one of my favourites. That's from Social Alchemy, and that has replaced caffeine for me. And I can mix my collagens in there. I put everything in there and I'll whoop it up. And I have that. And that is also my little sneaky healthy treat, because it tastes like chocolate, but there's no nasties in there. So lots of wonderful things. If you would like to take this Bye Bye Belly Fat one step further, of course, we put together some fabulous packs for you. Again, these are helping hands. So my beautiful Amanda, I know she didn't want to appear at all during this seminar, but she is going to come in for this. These are the packs that we have put together. There's a starter pack, which, Lynsey, what's this got in it for us?
So, like I said, slow and steady wins the race. But for those of you that are like, give it to me, I want to get started.
I want to get started.
Yep, absolutely.
This one, gut food.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah, so obviously we have elements in here that we talked about: protein, fiber, fat. This one here, inositol, we've talked about it before. It's technically vitamin B8, but what we use this for is insulin regulation. So this helps with blood glucose control. So you're really getting to support your biochemistry around insulin.
Do we need to get the tests done before we start this, or is this okay for anyone to take just as a...
It's very safe. It is very safe, but absolutely, you know me, I'm always an advocate of get your data, know where you need to start for your individual situation. So inositol helps with blood sugar regulation. The fiber that we're talking about, that was one thing I didn't say, is if you eat your meal, try and eat your veggies or your fiber component first. That will help your blood glucose tremendously.
Okay.
So if you add fiber to a meal, you're going to slow down glucose.
So those friends that you have that separate their meals and they have their veggies
First.
and then their meat and then the salad,
It's a thing.
it's a thing.
And it's scientifically backed.
So what way do we go? Vegetables
You
first.
do all your veggies and fiber first. So if
Okay.
you want to start with fiber first, it's going to slow down your blood glucose. Another little hack on that, which we didn't mention, is apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar clinically works wonders to keep blood glucose down.
Okay.
We have that too. But fiber obviously works well.
Yep.
And of course, we have protein.
Yes.
So this is just like your starter pack to kind of support you with a couple of those elements that
Okay.
we talked in our
So if you want to
formula.
go next level, that's the starter pack, and we're giving 10% off today. So the code is buy, and you'll get 10% off at You Must Try It. Then Amanda, here she comes. She's still doing everything she can to avoid. Look, back to camera. Turn around and smile. Here, this is my camera. You can come in here with me. Oh no, we're too far away. Here we are. This one. You can try this one here. There we are. There she is. Hates it. Hates it. She is the brains behind the whole operation.
Absolutely.
This is the ultimate pack available. And what else have we got in here? We've obviously got the protein, the gut food, and the
Inositol.
inositol.
Yes.
And then,
Okay, so this is for stress. So Magnude, it's a beautiful company, Aura Health. It has adaptogens in there as well as magnesium, some of my favorite ingredients just to calm the nervous system down.
Right.
Then you have, obviously, if sleep is an issue, we've got something that helps with sleep. And then, of course, this is that question that we had about MCT oil. So that's what it looks like in a liquid bottle. And you don't need much. So if you really wanted to dive in and work on all of those areas,
we've got some great Aussie companies in
Yeah,
here too, which is
absolutely.
awesome. So that is the ultimate pack, and that is available now. Okay, let me check my notes here and see if we have forgotten everything. I know we could sit here and talk all day, but I do really appreciate you giving us an hour of your time. It's wonderful that you're able to dedicate that to yourself, which to me indicates
It's good.
that you're on the right track, that you are here for you. Remember, you can't help anyone else if you don't help yourself first. So that's the truth about belly fat.
yes,
It's got to go,
yep, we got to work on it and get our health back. Yep.
and we will be holding each other accountable
100%, and being
along the
supportive.
way within our community. We do have some Q&As,
yes.
or you can always jump on, and we will be communicating all throughout the day, tomorrow, in fact, any day, at the Aging Project community. So jump on there, sign in, support each other, support us. We will be there to support you. Of course, we mentioned Zali. So if you really do want to get cracking on your exercise, you can do that as well with Zali. We're offering 30 days there to jump on board. We've talked about some fabulous products that you can get your hands on. Of course, coaching with Lynsey. I think you're going to be inundated, Lynsey, but she is the greatest helper that there is. And I call you pop science because you give us all the science, but in a really easy, digestible, popular culture way that we can all understand so well. And of course, we have some giveaways. So I know whoever's been online today, Amanda is going to randomly select someone to send out packs to. So hopefully you are the winner of one of our wonderful belly fat, bye-bye belly fat packs. Oh, what a day. Here's Amanda. Yes. Okay. Beautiful. There you go. So the 14-day challenge is where you can sign up to be a part of the community, so we can talk back to you there. And it's also where you'll find your 30 days free for Zali to jump on board and work out with Naz. She's hilarious. You'll have a ball. It's a lot of fun. So that is in the 14-day challenge, which we are going to kick off ourselves.
I know, absolutely.
We're going to be there.
Yep.
Because again, there's nothing wrong with a little top up. Thank you very, very much for joining in. We're going to wrap it here. We will be available for Q&A. So any other questions, please keep shooting them through. I've got a list here of you all. I can't believe that we were able to actually communicate with you throughout this. And there's been so many wonderful, wonderful comments. I'm sure you've learned a heck of a lot about those triggers to what brings on belly fat. So we're going to let you go. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you inside our Aging Project community. Thanks.